Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Mike Payne, owner of No Payne Roofing. We're here today running a podcast with Cory Koss, owner of Koss Accounting. Cory, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, now this is your first podcast, eh?
It is my first as a participant for sure. For sure.
Awesome, awesome. What made you want to come in for a podcast today?
I wanted to talk about an issue within my field that I see that I think a lot of your watchers and people who consume your media here could actually benefit from.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, I think that talking to accountants is pretty important for us, small business and tradespeople. When I've brought on people into, work with them in, business to business, I always tell them, hey, look, I'm going to pay you and I'm going to pay you this certain way. And if you don't have your, this is a very beneficial way to do things, I say, but if you lose your receipts and you don't hire an accountant at the end of the year or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, you're going to be in hot water.
Right. Yes. That is like a huge concern. And it's a number one problem with any client that comes into my office. Then a lot of ask, what expenses can I have? Right. And my answer is very simple. It's you can have any expense for your business as long as it meets two rules. One, it has to be business related. Two, it has to be reasonable. And then there's this little third thing that nobody ever seems to talk about is you got to prove that you made the expense, which is like you got to have your receipt, right?
Absolutely.
The CRA, they're human too, but their job is to make sure that you're not overinflating your expenses.
Right.
They're never going to check to see if you're underinflating it, right?
Yeah, well, I think that some people may have motivations also to overinflate things, if they're looking for a loan or something like that.
Oh, for sure, sure. I mean, banks are always looking into, is this company worth the risk, right? And a lot of small businesses, they just, they start off with their bookkeeping, however it is, or what they think it should be. They go talk to the bank, and then the bank says, well, I need X. I need a financial statement package that meets this standard, whatever that standard is that they ask for. And that poor soul who's doing what he loves to do or she loves to do, all of a sudden is like thrown into this realm of business, right? That maybe kind of got pushed off to the side or isn't necessarily being done to the best quality that can be done. Even though their heart is in it, the reality is tradespeople and people in construction, they work hard. They work long hours, and they don't want to come home and do bookkeeping. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. That's the last thing on their mind. They want their beer. They want to watch their TV. They, go out for dinner with the family, whatever it happens to be. But the last thing is, where's my expenses? Where's my revenue? How do I report it? Where's the tax? Where's this? Where's that? That business end of it, right? And naturally, it just gets pushed to the side, right? And there's no judgment on that. That's just the reality of the human nature, right?
I think that a lot of people really dismiss the importance of having basically an accountant that's involved. I've had before, I've been looking for accountants, and I'm like, hey, I want you involved in my business. I want to know what's going on all the time. Why are we asking about my email transfers 6 months ago? How the hell am I going to remember,
Right. And there's this conception that maybe I only need to see my accountant once, right? And there is a huge downfall, especially in an active business like in trades and construction, and that is you need relevant information today.
Right.
Not 6 months from now, not 3 years after you finally bring in your stuff. Banks want their information. The CRA needs their information. Maybe you want to get a loan from, or maybe a friend wants to get involved and you just don't have that information. Or worse yet, do you know who owes you money?
Right. I mean, I've had that happen before. I've actually had, I've had my accountants come to me like, hey, by the way, did you get that $3,000? What?
Right. And I find, even when I was just starting out in accounting and seeing the people once or twice a year, right, I would be asking them, okay, I've got your receivables here, right? We've come up with this list of receivables, and you've got, 15% of your revenue in 90 days or older. Have you collected it? oh, I think I did, but maybe I put it in my personal account. And like, well, what did you do? Did you collect it? Is it outstanding? I need an answer.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I want to be. I would rather be like basically what I want is somebody who is acting as the CRA, grilling me as if they would be, because I don't want any surprises at the you know. So like that's you know, and some people like to rock the boat a bit. I know some accountants that it is unbelievable the stuff that they pull, and they charge way too much. And but it seems like they're not charging very much. They'll give you this like ridiculously low price, and you're like, oh, that looks great. But then it's like, but that's because they're only spending 30 minutes on your entire year.
Right, and that's true. And you brought up a bunch of things there. I can't even remember them all. Yeah, there's a lot of accountants out there that can do. There are accountants, there are tax lawyers, right? We are two separate beasts. Tax lawyers, they specialize in tax law. They do know more about the loopholes and stuff like that, and they can actually draw from their experience with tax law as to what is allowed and what is not. And so they can get a lot more aggressive.
Okay.
All right, because they know where that line is. Right?
Got it.
In my role as an accountant, I don't know where that line is. If you want to push to where that line is, we can certainly call up a lawyer and say, hey, you know what? We got this unique transaction. What can we do? What is allowed? What's not allowed? And do it that way.
Smart.
Right. And you brought up another point there where sometimes it seems like they charge a lot and sometimes they don't. Like I know a lot of these tax lawyers are $1,500 an hour up, right? And some of the ones that I deal with, like I deal with the juniors. These large firms, and I get the bill in, and I see the head partners spend 15 minutes and and charge. Wow, I wish I could do that.
Right.
But again, you're getting, when you're dealing with those people, you're getting the uniqueness of their speciality. Right. I could charge you $10,000, come up with the same answer. Right. But I don't necessarily know the law. So if you go in front of a judge, there's always that something that in the back of my mind and back of the client's mind, is this right? Whereas you go to a tax lawyer and they say, yeah, $10,000, and maybe it only takes them 2 hours. Right. But they have the experience and the knowledge and having dealt with it, that they know that if the CRA says, yeah, we're going to question that, they know that they're not going to say to that auditor, you do that, and the judge is going to just chuck it out. Do you really want to? Because we got all these tax laws that say they will.
Well, right, and they're trying to. The CRA themselves are trying to save money, and they don't want to argue over certain things. So I could see how the lawyers would know. I heard about a guy that, and I don't condone this behavior at all, but what happens at the same time. So he I think he owed something like $90,000 to the CRA, and I don't know if it was because of COVID or what, but the CRA guy didn't show up. Right. And the case got thrown out, and he walked away with zero tax. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. I can't speak to anything specifically, but you brought up sometime, the CRA themselves, right? If you view them, they're not necessarily the enemy. Right. They have a job, and that is to administer the Tax Act fairly for everybody. Right. So when they come knocking on your door, and some people will never have that knock, and some people have it multiple times, they're on behalf of all society, making sure that this system is working. Right. If you feel guilty, then there's probably a reason why. Right. Because most people, when they get audited, there's one of two reasons. First one is CRA is doing a program on some kind of business that you are somehow related to, right? And so all of a sudden, your chances of being audited go up. Or I was just talking with a potential client the other day. She works for a company who is being audited, and just as natural part of that audit, she's being audited.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So those are how most people get audited. There are other ways.
I heard, this is what I heard. I heard the number one way to get audited is, and this is usually what happens. You have a small player going into to go live with the big fish. So you'll have a guy, he'll come in to a rich neighborhood, and that the postal code says that everyone's making $1 million a year or whatever, and he's reporting 250,000. That's like boom, red flag. You're getting audited.
Yeah, the CRA, if they feel that you are living beyond your means, will hit you with a net worth audit.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. There are some postal codes for sure. There's a couple here in Calgary for sure. You go move there and your tax returns do not match what other people's do. They may come in and say, hey, you're living in this neighborhood and we know all of the houses there are $3 million and you're reporting $50,000 of income. How on God's green earth are you affording this?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And some people, it may be you just got inheritance. Maybe you won the lottery, right? Some of those answers are pretty easy.
Yeah. But they still got to ask.
They still have to ask.
Yeah.
And I actually had one business a few doors down come to me with those papers, right? And I looked at it and I said, well, you got some explaining to do. I'm not touching this because it is a net worth audit. I'll let them know, right? This is not what I'm going to touch. They were driving Lamborghinis.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Right, and they did live in a in a multi-million-dollar house just off of what's that street where they all are like Elbow Drive there, right? And I had seen her tax return. It was only $50,000. I had prepared one for her before, and it was like, and I said, they're going to come in, and I warned her, they're going to come in, they're going to say, you got this multi-million-dollar house, you got a Lamborghini, all of that is worth $5 million, and in order for you to have afforded that, you had to make X, whatever that X is, $500,000 or $1 million a year for the last 3 years. $3 million, here's the tax bill. And at that point, it's up to you, the taxpayer, to prove them wrong.
Right. So, and you should, and I mean, by all means, you should. Because I mean, like I always say, the numbers don't lie.
No.
So it's like, I mean, how could you afford such a thing, reporting so low? You know, and that's. But then I guess, I mean, you know what? I think that I don't look at being audited as a bad thing if you're playing the game, correctly.
Yep.
Actually it could be beneficial from what I understand, because you get a little stamp saying you've been audited, helps you with more with your loans.
I wouldn't. Being audited, again, it depends on the reason why. I don't see how it can help.
Okay.
It may help you as a business owner as to more detail as to what you're allowed.
Okay.
Right? And just because you've been audited and you got these audit results doesn't mean you have to accept them.
Right. Okay.
Right. Auditors, I have a couple auditors in my family, and we chat all the time. Not to get into details, and we don't get into details because they're not allowed. But they love to tell me, Cory, just let your clients know that we as auditors, our job is to say no. Right. If you don't like our result, fine, take it to notice of objection.
Yeah.
Right. And they just you can sit there and argue, this expense is legitimate. A, B, C, D. Here's the tax. A, B, C, D. It's tax law. Right. I met everything, and the auditor is just going to say no.
Got it.
And then you say, okay, fine, whatever. I'm not going to fight with you because.
No point.
Yeah. Right? Because if they say yes, they have to explain why they said yes to their supervisor.
Right.
And they don't necessarily have the time to do that. So you go to the notice of objection. You write a notice of objection, dear sirs, this expense should be allowed because it meets all of this. And then the appeals officer, so to speak, will look at that and say, then they get a judgment, right? Then they can say, yes, this meets, this is allowed. And then they readjust the audit.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, I guess maybe one benefit, I guess, could be maybe peace of mind. Then, if you've been audited, you've been through the process.
Well, you know what it's like.
And now you're and then you get a fresh start. It's like, okay, here we go.
And off your case for a little while.
Yeah,
maybe they also do follow-up audits.
Okay.
All right. So if they do a full-blown audit, they may come back and just do a check. Right. So if they were really concerned about, say, your meals and entertainment. Right. And then maybe in the next year they will say, okay, you may not even know it, where they just check to make sure your meals and entertainment is in line with your segment of business. Or they may come back and say, you've reported, $3,500 worth of meals and entertainment. Please send us the receipts just for that, just to make sure that, you've actually listened, heard, and are following through on the recommendations.
Yeah, I imagine I think that's what I heard. That's the first thing that a lot of the way they do it is they'll first just kind of do a little test. They'll dip their toe in the pool, so to speak, and say, okay, if you don't have the receipts for that, you better.
For sure. Yeah, auditors have to justify again, their expense,
Yeah.
right? And so they're not going to come in and spend 2-3 days or a week or 2 weeks auditing your business just to change something so that they get $500 more tax.
Yeah, no, that's not worth anybody's
Right.
time.
So they're going to send out a letter. Hey, I see it all the time. Please send in these receipts. No big deal. We've got them all. We send them off. We get a letter saying, thank you very much. No changes required. Please keep your receipts for X amount of time and have a good day.
Yeah, me personally, I'm very, very on the ball with my receipts. I like to use QuickBooks.
Right.
And even though you have QuickBooks, people think you don't need a bookkeeper and an accountant. No, you totally do. Because things get cross-wired and mixed up here and there. But I always take a picture of my receipt as I get them.
Right.
There's no point in I found if you keep them in a pile or something like that, well, have fun with that when they're all crumpled up and they're like no good anymore. Just take a picture of it, get it uploaded.
Right. What we do, we don't use QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Okay. We've partnered with another program called Xero.
Okay.
Okay. They're very much like QuickBooks, but they don't have a budget for advertising.
Okay.
Okay. QuickBooks is a great advertiser, right?
Okay.
I don't knock them for that. They're amazing for advertising. Xero comes out of Australia, I believe it is. And what they do is when they came into Canada, they reached out to accountants and bookkeepers and said, this is our product. How can we make it fit for the Canadian product? Right. So when we log into Xero, we do not see anything that looks like it came from the U.S. or from the UK or from Australia, right? The GST return is just GST return, the Ontario, the Quebec, it's just all 100% Canadian.
Nice. Okay.
Right? We tell our clients, exactly that. You take the picture. When's the best time to capture a transaction? The moment you make it, right? So if you can take a
dates
picture,
line up and everything.
Yeah, you take a picture. When I take clients out for some entertainment, go for a meal for lunch, right? And I'm trying to get them onto the system, right? I'm like, well, just take a picture, and then right there on the program, you can put on who was there and what the meeting was discussed for, right?
Okay.
Boom, 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 and right, you hit send, and on the back end, right? So we're right there looking at it. We get a notification. Mike Payne just uploaded a document, right?
That's nice.
And then we can say, okay, boom, that's meals and entertainment. And, a day later, if you take a look at your trial balance, boom, meals and entertainment, there it is.
Got it. Okay.
Right?
Sorry, quick question for you, Cory. So if you were operating on, say, a QuickBooks system, how easy do you think the transfer would be over to this other program, Xero? Because there are some differences that I've noticed. For example, Mike mentions snapping his receipts on the spot. I operate under QuickBooks Self-Employed,
right,
which doesn't allow for that same function.
Right.
And most of my expenses go into pending mode, and
right.
I typically upload all my receipts when I'm invoicing.
Right.
It does add some time to the process,
right,
but I am considering upgrading to QuickBooks Online,
right,
which is a system that I would need to implement considering the changes I'll be making. But
right.
I'm curious about Xero and transferring to that potentially.
All of these programs, whether you're going from Xero to QuickBooks or QuickBooks to Xero, they all have that built in, right? We train to do that.
Okay.
Right. So it's not anything you have to do on your end. You just come in and say, hey, you know what? I want to work with you. I want to work because we do work within the Xero, and I'm not pushing anybody, but that's what we do. We do work within that environment, and you want to come with us, and we say, let's talk about the Xero. You don't do anything. You just give us access, because I do have a QuickBooks account and I can get into your QuickBooks. I do whatever it needs to do, and then it puts it into Xero.
Got it.
It's a no-brainer on your end. Like, we try to set everything up so that it's really a no-brainer on your end. That's the way we like it. And then we can spend, we like to talk to our clients. That was something you brought up, is you don't get to see your accountant but maybe once or twice a year. We like to at least see you 12 times a year.
Right, that's smart. To me, that's smart. Well, because you forget about things over time. I found that too. Like, it's like, okay, last minute, it's tax time. Now my accountant's talking to me, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, how do I know? I mean, tell me who I was sitting with at this, 12
right.
months ago. I don't know.
Right. Again, been doing this for 30 years. I have seen so many things that just boggles my mind. And thanks to today's technology, this shouldn't be an issue, but it still is for some clients. We don't see them for a year. They bring in their 12 months of stuff, and every bank statement hasn't been opened. We're the first one taking a look at it. Banks have a 90-day policy for you to go back and change. Had a client, brought all of his stuff in once a year. We start going through, we call him up and like, there is a bunch of transactions here at the casino, 500, 253, and it came up to like about $5,000. He looked into it. He wasn't even in the city at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He was out in Banff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he's like, I don't know what any of this is, right? He looked into it, and it turns out every one of those transactions were fraudulent. He talked to the bank. They were able to trace it, and he's like, can you reverse it? No, 90 days.
Oh, my. Yeah.
90 days, right? And so he's got to eat $5,000,
Mm-hmm.
right? And whereas, again, if you're seeing your accountant, once a month, or even if your account has access to your books, once a month we go in there, reconcile your bank, reconcile your Visa, reconcile your receivables and payables. If anything fishy comes up, it's immediate, right? We're looking at this $350 charge. We don't have a receipt for it. We don't have anything for it. Call you up. Hey, there's a $350 charge here. Then maybe you can say, yeah, I forgot that receipt. Or, dear bank, you better cancel that. That's fraudulent.
Oh, yeah, and the more transactions you're doing, the more important that becomes. Because like for me, I think we did. It's not I mean, relatively speaking, I guess it's a lot. We did like 2.6 million in transactions last year, and I mean, that's like you get lost in the trees real quick with that one, like it's so yeah, you need somebody on that like all the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, our largest client, if you can call them that, is my mother's business. About 5 million last year, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's the transactions, right? And they're a full welding shop, right? And so it's not just the banking transactions, right? There's the inventory transfer transactions we got to monitor, right? And we got to talk to the project manager on a near daily basis, right? There's something going on. There's something, we got to, in the payroll, and there's just so much. Right.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, when I deal with accounting and bookkeeping, when I'm being talked to about it, it's like, I mean, I have no issue with insomnia at that time. I just I want to go to sleep, but it's like something you got to go through. But it's like it's better than sitting there like crunching it yourself,
right?
And then you do it all wrong too. I mean, yeah,
right. I find that that's just the name of the game again, right? Again, you're a roofer. You love being up there. You love the challenge of, why is this roof crying on me, right? I love the challenge of, why do these books don't balance, right?
100%. Yeah. No, I'm all about that. Let's do what we're good at.
Yeah. And then pay somebody a reasonable price to do what they're good at, so that I get my recreational time. Because I work hard and I don't want to come home to work some more.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I come home and my wife says, we've got a leak coming out of the bathroom, right? And I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. I get up, bring up my client list, call up the plumber and say, hey, we got a problem here. He's like, yeah, it's going to cost you $50. I'm like, I don't care. I want to watch TV. I want to have my beer.
But not just that though. Like, I mean, if somebody can speak, like somebody might be like, I want to roof this house myself.
Right.
Not only are you risking doing it all wrong and incurring more expense, but that's time you could have been out there working, making money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just it, right? And I tell people that. Ask them, what is your time worth? Right.
Yeah.
When you're out there working, what is your time worth? Well, it's worth whatever it is. Right? You say $100 an hour, $200 an hour. Okay, fine. Now you come home, and you got to do your GST return. It's due tomorrow, or the CRA is calling, and they want it tomorrow because you're 3 months behind. Would you rather be sleeping at that moment,
right?
Knowing that your accountant dealt with it because it's part of what you're paying for?
Yeah, totally.
Right? It's like, it's done. You've got your reports at the end of the month. Here's your balance sheet. Here's your income statement. Here's your cash flow. Here's your GST return that we filed for you.
Yeah.
And then you look at that and it's like, yeah, great. Right? I'm going to bed.
Right. Yeah. I know some people that, I mean, in the roofing industry in particular, it is so bad. The guy, like, there's so many people out there, they don't even know that they think they're getting into this business and they can just make all this money and not report anything. And I know a guy, and he's dead now, by the way. He basically committed suicide because he racked up $90,000 in government debt, and there was no way for him to pay it off.
Right.
There was no way out of it.
Right.
It's kind of weird, this 90,000 number kicking around, but it might even been more than that. But yeah, he's long gone now. I guess the government didn't get him for that. But yeah, I mean, like, at that point in time, this is the tough part. So when you're down, let's say 100,000 or even let's say $20,000, if you haven't paid that and you blew all the money, now you got to keep making money and you got to pay tax on that money.
Yep.
Plus you got to pay that behind. It's like
That's right. You get behind so fast. One of the biggest issues and teaching points that I have with my clients is they come in, they're green behind the ears. They got their first, $10,000 check from a client, right? And they take 9,000 and they just go and just blow it, right? And they just keep doing this. They just keep doing this. And then at the end of the year, the tax man comes, and the tax man always say, you have to pay us first.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, you just drew out, $120,000 from your company. There's literally only $10,000 of cash, but you have a $30,000, $40,000 tax bill.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. Right. And
that's where percentages would come into play anyways, because as far as I'm aware of now, unless it's changed, small business income tax is around 13%.
Right, a little less. But right. I mean, if you were thinking about it and you did put some away, and we're not just talking corporate tax, right? Because, you can save some for corporate tax, but every time you touch that corporate money to pay a personal bill, your mortgage, your groceries, your electricity bill, where else are you going to get the money from, right? And a lot of people, they don't think, like they're going from an employee or a subcontractor to an owner position.
Right.
And all of a sudden they see their bank account. I got $10,000. I'm going to grab it, pay my mortgage, pay my groceries, pay my electricity bill. And that's just normal, right? And but when you do that, that's personal income. There is a section in the Tax Act. It is the scariest section in the Tax Act of the entire thing. It's Section 15. And basically it says, anytime you personally touch a corporate asset, that's a taxable benefit to you, and you have to record it. So if the company owns a car and you get in the car to go grocery shopping, you have to pay tax on that, right?
Yeah.
You touch personally the corporate money to go about pay a mortgage, you got to pay personal tax on that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Makes total sense.
Right,
Yeah.
because the corporation is a separate being under the Tax Act, and so that totally makes sense. And that's a trap. A lot of people get caught on. So it's a lot of training to teach people this is what you do. And then they ask the good question, how do I take money out of the company? Right. And then I answer them, there's two ways. You can either do it like you were doing before. Let's get you set up on a payroll. How much do you think you need? I need about $5,000 a month. Well, whatever the amount is. I know $5,000 less than that, but it's just whatever the amount is. Okay, so let's set up a payroll so that you get whatever it is that you need. Oh, but what happens if I need $7,000 this month? Well, if you're just drawing $2,000 extra, that's not going to affect your personal tax as much as taking $7,000 without taking any tax, without taking any kind of pension.
Right.
Right. Because at the end of the year, when the government, the CRA comes knocking, the tax man comes knocking, and you report $120,000, zero on the tax deducted line, that's a big number. But if you report, $30,000 deducted, and you only owe an extra $5,000 for the extra $2,000 here and there that you took, that $5,000 is a lot easier to swallow, and
it's also a tax deduction itself when you do it that way, because it goes against you don't pay taxes on that with the company, right? Because you're paying yourself as an employee.
That's right. That's right. You get a salary for
That gets me thinking about what I've been doing, because within QuickBooks I can mark any withdrawals as personal withdrawals.
That's right. A shareholder's loan.
I mean, I'm fairly small game compared to the kind of income the company that I sub from has overall. But I mean, I assume that would be the appropriate way to withdraw funds from the account, right? So I'd leave the 13% for personal or small business income tax plus whatever other amounts I see
That's
fit.
right. Right. And some people, they are, when they're starting out, they're not even 100% sure where they're going to be. And I'm like, hey, fair enough. If you're going to draw without considering how much tax you're going to owe today, but consider that you're going to owe tax tomorrow, draw nothing more than what you need.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Do you really need to go see 17 movies this month?
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe one. Right.
Well, that would be
budget.
I feel like there's a fine line in that, though. For example, like I'm saving for a down payment now, and so I say I get my $4,000 deposit from the company. I would leave usually around $1,700 of that in the account. Plus now I'm paying rent. Plus I have vehicle payments. Plus I have now saving for a mortgage. Things like that. That would come from the funds that my business is making. So.
Right. And the more money that you can keep in your company and only pay 10 or 11 or 13%. I believe it's in Alberta, it's less than. I tell people between 9 and 11%, depending on how much passive income you have. If you can keep the money in there and only pay 10%, that means there's 90% of that money that you can put, like you mentioned, a down payment on a house or a car. So now you can put it in 90% into some kind of savings vehicle, earn some interest. And then when it comes time to draw it out for, say, you want down payment on a house, you've got more money in the company. You can actually draw that out, and if you immediately put it into an RRSP, that draw is tax-free, and then you can use your RRSP as your down payment.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So rather than just marking these withdrawals as personal withdrawals, you think I should be saving these amounts within a business account in order to safeguard against, say, an inappropriate withdrawal?
Right. Yeah, because every time you take the money out, you're going to have to pay your personal rates on.
I heard there was this other thing you could do, and I don't know the details of it all, but it's not like it's kind of like the RRSPs, but it's something else where it's totally tax deductible. You invest into it, it pays interest, but it goes against your income, and then you can take a bank loan out against it, and then instead of paying like 13%, you just end up paying bank money or something like that. Does that ring a bell?
I'm thinking you're maybe talking about a vehicle called flow-through shares.
Okay.
Where you buy shares of a company. Well, this is dying. If I'm thinking what you're thinking about, this is going to be dead soon. Where you could buy renunciated expenses of resource companies. So resource companies, in order to get money to drill wells or to find wells, will go to the public and say, you give us the money, we won't take the expense on our tax return, you get the expense. So they're renunciating their expenses.
Oh, okay.
So you give them $50,000, you get to write off that $50,000, and now you've got this asset.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So I suspect that's what you're talking about.
Maybe it was. Yeah. I don't know. I just heard kind of like whispers.
Yeah. And the CRA, the Ministry of Finance is talking about getting rid of that.
Oh, okay.
Because that's a vehicle that's really only available to very rich people. It's not available to the average person, because who has that kind of money sitting around?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. And hey, Brody, just one little interjection here. So did we have a commercial we were supposed to run today? Something about the video you guys did?
That I edited last night, I uploaded onto this computer.
Okay.
So that we didn't lose quality, but we do have. Yeah.
Maybe in a couple minutes here, we'll run that. Take a quick minute break, kind of thing. You want to do that?
If you'd like to run it on screen here, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, let's do it. So we.
It is its aspect ratio is designed for a mobile device, so I mean it would be a bit of a.
That's fine. Yeah. So just for our viewers today, we have run a charity with Pause for Change, and we currently have a dog that is up for. Well, Pause for Change currently has a dog that is up for adoption. It's been their longest resident there at about 700 days, and we're going to actually cover the fees to adopt this dog. It's about $250. They dropped it down, but we're willing to take those fees on if you're willing to take the dog by, I think it was end of February. I think that's what we said, or was it something like that? We'll play the commercial here quick.
I'm just not too sure whether or not we would have audio coming through or not. That's the only thing I'm not 100% sure about, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, this is the first time we've run a commercial, so Cory,
do what you
bear
need to
with
do.
us here for a quick second. But
it would be wise to tune in to this stream on your device, and when I run it, we know if there's audio or not.
Okay. Or you can do it. Why not?
I could, certainly.
Yeah, do it. Okay. Well, we'll keep chatting here. So I do actually have a couple questions for you there, Cory, while we're waiting to run this little commercial here.
Sorry, that was a little loud. Didn't anticipate that. Just need to quickly. are back in action.
Okay. Sorry about the delay there. Okay, so a couple questions for you there, Cory. So I guess we've talked a little bit about your background. You've been in this industry for 30 years. Is there anything else you want to let us know about?
Yeah, sure.
And sorry, 1 sec. I can't hear through the
Mike's.
Yeah, right. We're good.
Okay.
Sorry, there we go. Okay, we're good to go.
Yeah, so I've been in accounting for 30 years, and before that, I did get my certificate in architectural technologies. And the reason why I went into that is my family, my dad and his brothers and their dad, were all in construction.
Okay.
That's kind of like the family business. And so I learned a lot about how houses were built through all of that, right? And I even helped build cottages and stuff. And my grandfather would sit down and teach me roofing and, how to build, because he did it when in Winnipeg, he would build homes ground up because they didn't actually have a lot of sub-trades. You did it yourself, right? And so he knew how to do the plumbing and the electrical and all that. And so he taught me all of that. And so I would, solder all the copper piping and everything. And so learned how to do all that. So when I watch people do that, I'm like, yeah, I remember how to do that. That's pretty cool. And I loved the fact that, at the end of the day, there was this thing that you built.
Right.
Like amazing.
I like that
right?
feeling, yeah.
Right. And when I build garages and decks and stuff, it's like, wow, look what I did with my hands. This is just totally amazing. But a lot of that, again, was done, my grandfather had the vision and he was able to put it together, whereas I seemed to be missing that artistic part of it. I was very, this is the step, the next step, the next step, the next step, right? Very, very much that way. So I was, and so I wanted to get into architectural technologies because I wanted to take that kind of thing to the next step and learn how can we build a house or build a building and do all that kind of stuff. And in architectural technologies, it was not just a matter of designing the house. You had to think about how is it being built. And so I was able to take experience and throw that into there, right? And so I did really well. The only problem is when I got out of it is the market just would crash. Right?
Okay.
And so I went into accounting, and I've always wondered how on earth can I take those two fields and meld them together, mesh them together, right? Because I've always felt that tradespeople, in society, through no fault of their own, always seems to be looked down on, right? There's always seems to be this, oh, you're a tradesperson, oh, you're a carpenter, right? And I've always been, it doesn't matter what you do. If you love it, just do it. Right. And society needs everything, right? People willing to, if you want to be a sanitation worker and drive those big trucks, go do it. Just love it, right? Because if there wasn't sanitation workers, who would do that?
Sanitation is probably one of the most important jobs there is. I from what I understand, the trades get it the worst in South Korea.
Right.
Apparently, if you're a tradesman, you're like a total failure. But
Yep.
you know what? Trades to me is awesome. It's free. You don't. I mean, for those of you who don't do it, you don't know what you're missing.
Oh no. I mean, I wish I had that about me, but I was, because I saw and felt that trades were, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I had a business coach, right? And one of the things he said, Cory, in accounting, you should find a niche and specialize in that, right? And I said, well, you know what? I have a passion for trades.
Got it.
And I have I can talk to them because I have the experience and they're people too, and and it's just there's just this amazing quality about them that I love. And he's like, why trades? He listed off all of these problems. They tend to be behind. They always have a problem with CRA. They tend to be standoffish. Yada yada yada. And I said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go into like accounting for dentistry? He's like, well, that's what a lot of people do, and I'm like, that's why I want to do trades, is because they're underrepresented.
Okay.
Right. There's unique challenges in trades, because of how a lot of the people start off. Right. They usually a lot of people. I have a friend who's a cribber. He cribbed for his dad, and then he went off and did his own thing, right? And he's a great cribber. His dad taught him all about cribbing, but who taught him about business? Who taught him How do you do payroll? How do you do a T5018? How do you do your GST return? How do you do bookkeeping, right? There's that whole training of the business side that's just totally missed. Right. And then, yeah, of course, these people unfortunately find themselves in trouble with CRA because a lot of accountants, and I don't want to diss on accountants, but they view trades as a little bit lower than the. I would rather have a lawyer, so to speak, because they're just going to pay, right? But I would these people are good people too. They should be represented. They should have somebody there saying, "Oh, they should be able to call me up. Hey, Cory, I got an opportunity to buy a truck or lease a truck, right? Or I got a job coming in that I need 3 more employees, or should I get contractors, right? And who do they get to talk to, right? Maybe they talk to a friend of theirs. Well, this is what I did. Is that right? Is that wrong? What happens if the CRA comes in, right? And did you account for it?
Right. Oh, well, I mean, I think that being said, because a lot of trades are neglectful in this area, that it really gives you a competitive edge as well. It's going to set you above, maybe who you consider competition at the time. It's going to put you to a whole new league.
Right. The way I see it is, I'm not trying to compete with other accountants. This is not the way I see it. I see it as I need to provide a service to an industry that is not getting, at least in my opinion, the service that they need.
Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying is, though, as a roofer or as a tradesman, if I want to compete with my competitors,
for sure, hire
an accountant, a good one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I say that over and over again. My largest client, one of the best things that I do for them is this cash flow projection, right? We only look 8 weeks into the future. Okay. The reality is more than 4 weeks is just guesswork.
Okay.
Right. But we look 8 weeks into the future. We know every time payrolls come in. We know every time a vendor is going to be paid. We know in GST. We know it all. So we can take a look and say, oh, there's a little bit of a dip here 6 weeks from now.
Oh, okay.
Right? We're running a little bit out of work. Let's get out there. Let's get some more work in.
Got it.
Right? So when you can see an issue, it's small today, 6 weeks from now. It's large if it's tomorrow, right?
Totally.
It's large when you're looking at it going, I got a $16,000 payroll coming through, and there's only $15,000 in the bank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a cash flow crunch is probably the thing that delivers most companies a death blow, because
it does.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of like a snowballing issue. If you can't pay your guys, well, one, that's like fail right there.
Yeah.
Like they're going to go elsewhere really quick. And then when the work comes, oh, nobody's there to do it.
Yeah. And who's going to come back to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
100%.
And so if you can take a look and say, man, looks like I'm going to be a little shy 6 weeks from now, call the bank.
Yeah.
I need a little floater loan, right? Bank's going to love you for being able to just call them, a few weeks in advance because it takes them a while to get the cash ready for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I just picked up a really good roofer. He's working for us as we speak. His roofing company owes him a lot of money right now. But the crazy thing is, this guy's a good worker. Like, it's hard to find good workers in this industry.
For
so
sure.
if you lose a good worker due to cash flow, you just potentially screwed yourself in terms of like growth in the future.
Reputation gone.
Yeah.
Because those guys are going to go out, and what are they going to say to the person who's hiring them?
I
Why are
already
you
know.
leaving them?
Yeah.
They can make payroll.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's how word spreads. And usually industries are pretty small too.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I know that rumors spread pretty quick.
They do.
And
Yeah.
I mean, if I talk and for me, I know like a lot of the roofing heads. So when we talk, and then they talk to their guys, and it's just kind of branches right out. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. Okay. Well, another question for you here. Just got these ones pre-written here, so bear with me. Okay, so since we're talking about cash flow, how could someone better manage it?
Well, being on top of it, right? I mean, and one of the best ways to be on top of it is to have as real-time bookkeeping system as you possibly can.
Okay.
You cannot have a cash flow projection if you're seeing your accountant once or twice a year.
Okay.
Right? It's just impossible. At least they cannot provide that service, right? That's something that I love to provide because it provides all kinds of interesting talking points. So if you're able to get your expenses into your system, within a reasonable amount of time, and I'm not talking months, I'm talking hours or minutes, you're on top of your receivables and you have a good idea of all of that, then we can certainly take a look and say, hey, look, you got this much coming in. These are your work in progresses. You got this much on the, in the funnel. We know you got this much coming out. That's how you get on top, is to have your bookkeeping system up to date, not in a bag, not in a box, not at an accountant's office for 3 months.
That's I know. I know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Actually, I've been in business technically since I was like 14 years old.
Right.
So I've been.
Right.
Everything you're saying is very much. I mean, I've been through my rodeo, and there's a reason why I don't do accounting myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And this client of mine, we run that business 100% on that cash flow. 100%. Income statements, balance sheets, they're all what happened, right? How much cash you have today means nothing compared to where is that cash going tomorrow.
Right.
Right. And a lot of accounting systems have a failure of capturing things that haven't been captured yet. Okay. For example, the work that's in the funnel, right? You got some work coming. They said they're signing on it. How do you get that into your accounting system? It just doesn't exist. And again, you have to work with somebody who's got that experience to say, okay, what work do you have in the funnel? When is it going to come in? When's the cash going to come in, right? And once you start thinking the cash flow of where things are going, you gain a whole new perspective on your business.
Right.
But you're not looking at, your QuickBooks and your zeros and your whatever, SageWorks and all that. They will give you a cash flow, but that's only based on what's in your books, right? It doesn't take a look at the reality of when do customers pay, when do you pay, right? We talk to people, don't necessarily pay every bill that comes in, but plan every 2 weeks you pay all your payables.
Right. Yeah. I've seen something too before. Like, I mean, like I'll have a credit card bill that's fairly large, but there's no payment due right now.
Right.
So why not wait till the payment's due to pay it, just to keep that cash in there? But
you bet. That's actually a big strategy, right? Is how far can you push out your payables reasonably?
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're paying always by credit card, there are issues with that, but and it is a common. But what happens if all of a sudden you need to, in your case, let's just say somebody comes to you and says, I need you to re-roof all of my rental units that happen to, you need to buy all of this material today, right? Or within a short period of time, right? Your credit card's not necessarily going to cover it, right?
Well, I have a pretty awesome system right now. My suppliers, they require payment like 30 days after purchase, or sometimes a little bit further than that.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, okay, now the bill comes, I pay that with my credit card.
Yep.
Then my credit card gives me another 45 days of
right.
interest-free. So I can technically push things out a couple months.
For sure, yeah. No, and that is a good strategy too. And that's not available to everybody, but it's a good strategy too. If you have a relationship with suppliers and you say, you know what, I'm buying from you all the time, give me 30 days, not 30 days. Right, and then that works, right? Or you can even just say, you know what, I'll pay you 30 days, to heck with the credit card for something else, right? One of the issues with debt is if you ever have to go to the bank, your debt on your credit card is debt on the company, right?
Yeah.
Right, and so the bank is going to look at it and say, yeah, of course you pay it all the time, but that is still debt of the company. Right?
You got to zero them out.
It's better to see them zero, and especially if you're looking at, I need some cash flow for a. You can't pay payroll on credit card. It just doesn't happen. So you go to the bank and say, hey, I need a quick working capital loan, right? And the bank looks at your financials. Please, hopefully you have some within a reasonable amount of time, and you're sitting and you're showing $15,000 credit card debt, right? That's a notch against you.
Oh
right?
yeah,
on whether or not you can get the debt.
Well, that's why too. I don't generally turn down offers. So when credit cards tell me, "Hey, we're going to give you this amount of money, that amount of money," I always say yes, because I mean, to a degree,
sure.
but because you have more, because you want to keep like it below like 45% of the threshold. So if you keep everything below 50%, your credit builds and gets bigger and bigger, and then it's like then they see that extra play, but. Just rewinding a little bit here, I would like to say that I've met a lot of accountants in my day, and I don't think I know anybody that does projections like that.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. We're trained. Okay, I'll just tell you, when we're trained to create financial statements. I went through the CMA program, so I'm trained to look at. I was trained to be a CFO, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Managing companies in different business cycles, different tools, different, ways of looking at things, right? So that's what I loved about the CMA, is that it was a management accountant. It wasn't the end-all be-all financial statements and tax returns. It was, how do we help the companies, right? How do we think outside the box and come up with solutions?
Got it.
Right. And so it's unfortunate that there isn't something out there that, allows accountants to forward think. And because of the one client that happens to be my mother, and my mom and dad ran that business strictly on cash flow, and I learned a lot about how cash flow works and all that, right? And so that is one of those things that I just see as such a beautiful benefit for business owners. And I want to say, this is what you can get, right? This is, like I said, if you can imagine being able to look 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, and seeing that little dip and being able to plan for it today, that gives you a lot of time.
Right. Yeah, no, I know that's very intriguing. Like I said, I've never seen that before. Just bear with me for my next question.
I've got a filler question. Just to give Mike a minute here to go through his notes, I was just curious about the kind of charges that you have for the range of services that you provide.
So I try to do things on a monthly basis. Right, so the billing is monthly and based on what you need, right? So, and also based on the size of the company, because a larger company has more transactions to look at. So if we're looking at a small business starting up and they're like maybe the 150 to 250 range, we're talking $400 a month gets you all your bookkeeping done, your GST returns done, your T4s for the owners done. We also do your personal tax returns, and you can call us, anytime during business hours. And we'll get back to you within 48 hours to answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
Right? That's just all in one. You don't have to worry about it. And there's no, I can't call my accountant because he charges me $250 an hour every time he picks up the damn phone.
Right.
Right? No, we want you to call.
Got it.
Need you to call. So we're not going to penalize you for doing that. Because if you call and you say, hey, I have an opportunity. Do I own the truck or do I lease it? I'd rather we talk about it now, so then when that transaction happens, we've dealt with it.
Okay.
Instead of me calling you up, hey, you got a truck here. Right. I see you leased it. Maybe you should have bought it.
Okay. Right. Yeah, 100%. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah, and because we're looking at your stuff on a monthly basis, almost daily sometimes, because we get notifications that you uploaded, and if we have some time, we will open up your books and we'll just make sure everything's done. Because we're looking at your stuff on a daily basis, we don't have to ask you, please bring in your stuff so we can see where your books are at.
So do you have in-house bookkeeping then?
Oh yeah, we do that all in-house. Yeah, there's me and I got two staff members.
Excellent.
Right,
excellent.
and I'm hoping to. I would love to add some more. That's my dream.
Excellent. Okay. Let's. I think we've asked a lot of questions. I could talk to you again. I mean, honestly, I think we might have to have another podcast another day with you, because there's just so much you have to talk about and offer. But let's move into the personal realm here. So I guess you said you're a cancer survivor. So what happened there?
Yeah, I'm a cancer survivor. I got the male cancer, so to speak. Right.
Oh, okay.
I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2021, May of 2021. Good news was the paternal line of my family, every male had it.
Oh, really?
My father had it. His two brothers had it. My grandfather had it. So when I turned 40, I made the decision, I'm going to start monitoring.
Okay.
I'm not waiting to 50, because my dad had it when he was 55.
Got it.
Right. And it was already somewhat advanced. Right. So at 40, it's just a prick. Just get a blood. they do the blood test, right?
Oh, okay.
Right? It's no big deal. And I would recommend every male out there to do it. Yeah, maybe you get a DRE for the first time, but it isn't as bad as they make it.
What's a DRE?
Digital rectal exam.
Oh, okay.
Take a deep breath in.
Yeah.
Cry on your way home. But, it's not as bad. The doctors are all very professional. Okay, so I was diagnosed, and because we were watching it, and they caught it so early. It was just a matter of removing the prostate.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't have to have any chemo, no radiation.
Wow. Well, okay. Yeah, well, that's the benefit right there of catching things early. Well, I actually I've had a prostate exam myself. Actually, I got it when I was in I think it was high school.
Right.
And I thought it was funny though because it's a small town.
Right.
And the doctor was my buddy's dad.
Right.
So it's like, being pretty immature back then.
Of course.
Obviously I had some jokes about it later. But yeah, well, hey, that's really good. So I guess your suggestion is, be proactive about it.
Be proactive. Yeah. I mean, even if you're proactive, the reality of hearing those words, you have cancer. Yeah, I was expecting it, but you have cancer. There is an emotional change in you. For me, there had to be a change. Because before that, I was all about the work, right? I learned from my parents. I learned from my uncles. I learned from my grandfather. Work hard. That's where your value is. That's where your worth is, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that C word comes across the desk, and then all of a sudden you're talking to your wife. What happens if this is worse? What happens if I die? What happens if I don't survive on the table? What happens if I do survive, but when they're in there, they nick a wrong nerve? I mean, all of a sudden,
so much can happen. Yeah.
all of a sudden, those conversations, they come down, and in the back of your mind, everybody's saying, "Oh, it was just men's cancer. It's easy." And like, well, you weren't up with me until 3 a.m. talking to my wife, were you?
Right.
Right.
100%.
For the third time this week.
Yeah. There's I don't think there's really any small surgery. I had a tonsillectomy done, and this is a fairly standard procedure. I woke up the next morning at my home bleeding to death out my throat.
Right.
So I mean, like it's, you think it's just a tonsillectomy. Well, I mean, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Right. And I got the robot surgery.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so I just got a few little scars.
Oh yeah.
And they went in there, and the surgery was 7 hours. It was a little on the long side, but I didn't ask why. I was like, if it took 7 hours, it took 7 hours.
Take your time, guys. Like,
yeah, exactly. Right. And I would recommend, if you want to know more about it, I'm not going to talk about it, just go ahead and look it up. I mean, the resources are there.
Okay.
Right. So after that, I had a mindset change. Right. All of a sudden, I went from got to work to live. Right. And I was like, no, this is dumb. This is insane.
Right.
I'm just working myself crazy, and I'm not. And so after that, my mind changed to, there is no such thing as an opportunity to miss up anymore, right? Before it was, if my favorite band was coming to Canada, if they didn't come to Calgary, I'd bitch and complain about, not worry about it. Now, they're coming to Canada, but they're going to Vancouver. I'm getting a couple of tickets. If nobody wants to come with me, I don't care. I'm still going.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you know what? We've all heard time is money, but nobody says time is life.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And it's sad and unfortunate that it takes such a life-changing event for people to come to that realization that life is so much more than waking up, going to work, coming home, having dinner, going to bed. Right.
Yeah, that kind of, that's so true. And I saw a movie. It was like the 12 something or something. I think this is called the 12. I can't remember what it was, but it was about people that went to like this resort property for all their problems. They had like 12 different people, and they had all their different issues.
Right.
And so they went through like this process of therapy. The very end therapy was actually a near-death experience. Right. And they thought they were going to die, but it was just a part of the job, or that's part of the process. And then they come out totally changed. So it kind of reminds me what you're saying.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think if you go through all that and it doesn't change you, I don't think you're human.
Oh, right.
Right. I mean,
totally. Yeah.
Because the reality is in Canada, 12 men a day die from prostate cancer.
Okay.
Not die with, die from. And that's an insane amount of people. I mean, the time we've talking here, 3 men died.
Right.
Right. That's an insane number. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you would just say, put away the ego, get the blood prick, get the DRE. Right.
Totally. Yeah. That makes sense. I think just regular blood tests just in general makes sense, Like you can find out so much about yourself, like not even just that, but there's a lot of other things you could find out, like, oh, you have too much iron in your blood. That's what I found out actually in a long time ago blood exam that I was like, oh, too much iron is just as bad as not enough iron,
Right.
I'm actually in the process of scheduling a blood donation, but by proxy, they can do an examination as well.
Right.
And after hearing what you've had to say, I am certainly a little bit more. Oops. Let me get my mic going here. I was just saying that I plan on doing a blood donation, and obviously a blood exam would go along with that. And after what you're saying, or what I've heard you say, obviously getting that done annually or periodically would be
Right.
wise, of course.
Right. If there's history in the family, you can just have it done annually, right?
Yeah. Of
Right.
course.
The doctors need a baseline because everybody, what they're looking for is PSA, which is a prostate-specific antigen.
Okay.
And everybody has some in their body, even women.
Right.
Right. So what they need is a baseline. What is normal for you? Right.
Okay.
Normal for based on some people's ages might be 3, might be 2, might be 4, and all of a sudden, if there's a jump, right, and they say, well, you're normally a 3.2 to a 3.9, all of a sudden you're a 5.2. Maybe we now got to do a biopsy, right? But if you only go in there once every 10 years and it's 5.2 on the first one, do you have it or do you not?
You know, I have reservations against biopsies. I think that they can do more harm than good. You
For
know?
sure. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, I belong to a support group for sure, right? And some people have had biopsies and have had issues.
Yeah.
And when I went for the biopsy, as embarrassing as it was, 5 minutes later it was done, and thankfully I was young, right? I think the older you get, the less ability for your tissues to come back
Yeah.
from that,
Right.
right? And some of the stories you hear from having a prostate biopsy, look it up. It's intense.
Oh yeah, I actually have. Yeah, no, that's a well, Cory, I really appreciate you bringing awareness to that topic there. We are supporters of the Movember campaign.
Right.
Last couple of years we've been out, but we had one we called Kick Cancer in the Cojones,
Right.
and we would get people to like and share, and we would donate after that. We have a really actually pretty funny photo that we took with Brody and Nolan. We'll have to show you that after this. But
Right. Go ahead, include me in on that. Just call me up and say, hey, Cory, we're doing this again, and I'll be there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we got a collaborator. Well, next November, let's do it.
Right. And also, with that whole mindset change, right? I was one of these people. I see you got a tattoo over here. I was one of those people. I don't need a tattoo, right? And after that, I had my surgery on December 6th, right? And so I got a tattoo, which is covered up right now, but I did get a tattoo of the blue ribbon.
Oh yeah.
All right, and it's not a perfect blue ribbon. Like a lot of people, you see a lot of those cancer ribbons, and they're like a nice, pretty ribbon, right? But my blue ribbon, I actually had the tattoo artist tatter it.
Okay.
Right, tatter it and put holes in it, and my date is on there. And not only that, the cancers that have affected my family and my wife's family are also on there too. So
that seems like some serious meaning there. It's not just a random tattoo. That's you're at an interesting age for a tattoo. That's kind of cool though. I'll have to check it out after the podcast here. But
sorry, Mike, I'm not sure if you plan on closing up here soon or not. I just had a thought. Just you talked about just how this experience had changed your mindset. Of course, you were just quicker to do the things that you want to do. For example, if the band's coming to Canada, I'm gonna go.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. And I kind of relate to that in a way where I went through a traumatic event as well.
Right.
I fell off a roof about 3 years ago. The thing is, you were conscious and you were kind of aware through the whole process outside of, say, the general anesthesia you went through during the surgery.
Right.
Although I kind of just woke up 5 days later and kind of just realized, whoa, what happened? I wonder if I was impacted as deeply as you were by being that close to,
Right.
that kind of. So I just wonder.
I'm
not sure what I'm trying to say.
I think it's going to be definitely a different psychological effect.
I feel like it didn't sink in as deeply with me because I feel like still I get caught in this routine of work, eat, sleep.
Well, I think the difference is this: is that you had the relief. You're alive. This just happened. You got this realization of like, oh, holy, this could be my last day. I can see for you, Cory, you saw this coming in advance. It's like it's something, and it's like so you had to pass through and come out on the other side. Yeah, so I would say definitely I'm sure there's a difference.
Yes and no. I mean, when I was younger, I was involved in a head-on collision at high speeds on highway speeds, right? And I had the same type of reaction. It was just get up the next day and move on.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of an age thing there.
I wondered that as well, because
Right,
I
'cause-
went right back to roofing like
Right.
4 months later. I was right
Right.
back up
Miraculous
to doing
recovery,
the same
too.
thing,
Right,
And I just,
right, and that's one of the reasons why. I mean, there's a little bit of divergent here. Is the reason why I want to, be more involved in the accounting for people like yourselves, is when I was going through all of that, and I came to the realization my businesses still had to run, right? And maybe for you guys, it's when I go on vacation, what's happening in the background, right? Because it should be the same kind of thing. You should be able to go and do what you love to do.
Totally.
Right. Whether it's go vacation, go to Cabo for 2 weeks and not have to worry about payroll.
Right. Well, yeah, no, that's interesting stuff, and I mean, I guess like too, like, when you're about to die, I think you want to feel like you've lived, so.
Sure. And that's one of those things too, right? That movie, The Bucket List, it is so unbelievably true, right? I started doing my bucket list. I didn't write it down, but I had a bucket list, right? Not only did I want to go and see my favorite band, I wanted to meet them.
Got it. Yeah.
Right? And they don't do meet and greets. But I found where their tour buses were, and I sat there and waited for 2 hours.
You've certainly got to
Oh,
tell
wow.
us what band you're referring to. You've
Sure,
gotta
after
tell us.
off air.
Oh, is it embarrassing?
No,
Oh,
it's not embarrassing, but not a lot of people
Okay.
would know about them.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Well, speaking of off air, there, Cory, let's wrap this up today,
Sure.
and really appreciate having you on. Very
Sure.
interesting. Like I said, we wanna definitely have you on here again. It seems like there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, well, everybody, thanks for joining us on the No Payne podcast, and we're sorry that commercial didn't work out, but we'll play it next podcast Thursday at 3 p.m., and we'll probably also be posting it on our page like tomorrow or something. So stay tuned, and thanks for being here. Bye for now.